I want to talk about a story of not just this clinic, another chiropractor, but about a farmer. But this farmer was third generation. Okay, his grandfather purchased the land, his father owned the land, worked on it, but it was this gentleman's turn. And he said, I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to plant in the winter so I can get a jump start on the harvest. So this man, just some context, he was God-fearing. He prayed every day. He was about as faithful as you could possibly be, Chris. So he continued to sow the seed in winter. And his wife said, are you sure, hon? You know, the wiser spouse. Are you sure you should be planting in winter? We've never done that before. He said, no, God gave me a word. I believe this is what we're supposed to do. So he starts planting in this frozen tundra here, digging up the hard soil, planting, sowing. His neighbor's looking at him. What are you doing? He goes, no, it's okay. God's got this. I heard a word. I want to ask you all a question. What do we think happened 3 months after he planted those seeds? Do we think something grew 3 months after planting when things were frozen? The challenge is nothing happened. No fruit, no tomatoes, no corn, more so, no harvest. Now the question is, whose fault was this? Was this the seed's fault? He didn't plant in the right season. He broke natural law. And this principle is the law of seasons, just like the law of gravity. The same laws that apply to farming also apply to our health. Now here's the scary part about natural law. We don't break natural law, they break us. In fact, you can do every single thing right, just like this farmer did, and you can break one law and it can cost the entire harvest. Everything appropriately, and the one wrong thing cost him the entire year. Now, these same laws apply to our health and healing. We know some of these, right? The laws of nutrition, the laws of exercise, the laws of stress, the laws of sleep. But then there's actually these laws of health and healing, which most of us don't even know. And that's what we're going to touch on. In fact, most of us, not in just this room, but even outside of here, this is why people drug you here, are unknowingly breaking these natural laws. They're in your church. Hence why you're here. They're in your school. They're in your gym. They're literally right next to your work. They're at BNI. And without them even knowing it, they're breaking natural law. So tonight, I want you to be thinking about 2 questions as we go through. Where am I out of alignment with this law? And then who else do I know that needs to hear about this? If everything is built on law and built to be successful, then anything outside of that would deem unsuccessful. So when we follow the laws, what should we experience? What do you think would happen if the end result is following natural law when it comes to our health and healing? Health. Well, we agree with Ryan. So what do you think would happen if we don't follow these natural laws of health? What do you think we'll experience? Sicknesses. Dysfunction. Maybe you've heard it coined dis-ease, and you get a diagnosis. Does anybody actually know what diagnosis means? If we break down the word, what's DI mean? 2. How about the word agnosis? Knowledge, or agnosis is lack of. So actually the literal translation of diagnosis is 2 people that don't know. That would be you and your practitioner. Yet our whole healthcare system is based on diagnosis. Let's see what happens as a result when we don't follow natural law. I want to share a person, a 16-year-old boy who fell short of following natural law. He was the quarterback of his football team, rolled out for a pass, and from that point on, his life changed forever. He woke up the next morning and he was paralyzed from the waist down. Natural law. Physical trauma, doctors recommended a chemical solution, violating natural law. We'll talk about his story later on. So let's take a look at where we are as a nation in violating these natural laws. We've done such a good result, and so, don't get me wrong, we are very patriotic. We love America, but sometimes we got to talk about the bad too. And right now, when we factor in the money, we rank 79th out of 81 developed countries when it comes to overall health. We make up 5% of the world's population, yet consume 70% of the world's drugs. In fact, 80 to 85% of the world's pain medication. Yet we rank near the bottom when it comes to health and healing. So I don't know it all, obviously, but I do know more money and more drugs are not going to be the solution. What's the number 1 cause of death in this country? Heart disease. Does anybody know the first symptoms or signs of heart disease? Inflammation, hopefully. Right? There's some C-reactive protein things that you can do if you work with a functional doctor. And the first symptom or sign of heart disease is death from a heart attack. Who in here wants to wait for that? Nobody's raising their hand but me? Yeah, this happens in the church. Oh, we prayed for them. God abandoned them. We can talk about it was actually natural law. Cancer. We've done such a good job in this country, and this isn't a poo-poo anyone. I'm not shaming medicine or shaming the United States. My grandmother died from cancer, so I know what it's like to lose loved ones. In fact, I think it's 1 out of 3 women will have breast cancer, right? But because of our ignorance and not following natural law, we've gone from the 3rd leading cause of death, now cancer is the 2nd leading cause of death in this country. That's how good we've done. How can a 9-year-old girl have blood cancer? There's got to be some sort of violation of natural law taking place, and that's what we're going to touch on tonight. 600% increase in the past 15 years with diabetes. 600% increase. And we think the church has a health issue? Pray it away? You can't pray your way out of diabetes. And just another factoid, people who are suffering from migraines, I'll walk you through how this connects in a second, but 80% of migraine sufferers, like chronic migraine sufferers, will end up suffering from a stroke.
Wow.
And that's not chiropractic research, that's from the Journal of American Medical Association. I'm going to show you how that connects in just a second. So people with migraines, as you're planting these seeds, you need to figure out if they're violating natural law. Autoimmune conditions, 300% increase in autoimmune in the past 10 years. We spend $9 billion a year on autoimmune alone. I do another workshop, advanced workshop, the gut-brain connection. 1 in 3 women will suffer from breast cancer, but 1 in 9 women will suffer in childbearing years from autoimmune. Yet we're not talking about it. And then this last one, anyone ever heard of the term iatrogenic death? Literally means that the treatment or the care literally caused death. That is literally one of the top causes of death in this country. But the third leading cause of death is going to your medical doctor.
Wow.
Don't shoot me. Any of you guys, third leading cause of death, medical error, you will see all mainstream articles pop up. Now, I don't say that to poo-poo on medicine, okay? Let me give you some examples. We had our daughter at home just this couple weeks ago, and after baby delivery was fine, once the placenta came, excessive blood flow. I'm not the blood flow guy. You're bleeding, spewing out of you, please don't call me, whether it's pregnancy or something else, limitless chiropractic is not your solution. We did have to have medical intervention. The United States is #1 in the world when it comes to emergency and crisis care. You don't want to be anywhere else. The challenge is less than 1% of all healthcare related costs are emergency and crisis care. So where is the other $4 trillion going towards? That's what we've got to figure out. I want to introduce a new map. If you understand these pillars, or I would even say laws of health and healing, this is what you'll experience on this side of eternity. So what do we think are these laws of health and healing?
Eating correctly.
Eating, nutrition, right? We know that we have to eat appropriately. There's also some things for fast. That's more of an advanced thing. Just a small excerpt. We know no one's ever promoting fasting, because who profits off us fasting? We'll talk about that later on. What typically goes hand in hand with what we eat? Exercise. We've actually done such a poor job in this nation because you can literally order food in your sweatpants through DoorDash. We have to have an exercise regimen. It's just crazy, right? Our conveniences have consequences. How about number 3? This one we take for granted. Sleep. I'm telling you, if we all just got 30 minutes extra sleep, guarantee 30 to 50% improvement in our health. We're the only species that intentionally miss sleep. Now, number 4 is a little strange. It's very broad. Sunlight. Sunlight is a part of, I would put that under nutrition, like hydration. I kind of would lump all that together because we could go to so many subtopics, but absolutely. Sunlight's so important. Vitamin D, you have to be in the sun. They told us the sun was our enemy, but it's not true. Most of us know this, just sometimes can't articulate. Our mental health, right? This is our spiritual health, our marriages, how we look at the world, like the lens that we see life through. All these laws have an impact on how our body can heal. Now, these 4 things can impact our health, but this one actually controls every aspect of our health. In fact, you could do all of these other things correctly and miss out on this one thing and have a complete shamble when it comes to your health. That's the scary part about health, healing, and natural law. You could do all these perfect, but if you don't get your nervous system healing or working properly, every single aspect of your health will deteriorate. Let's go back to basic anatomy if we can. Now, this is all of us at one point. Now, these 2 cells come together. We just went through this with our daughter, but they become 4, 8, 16 to an estimated 74 trillion cells. Each one of these having 200,000 chemical reactions every single second. 200,000 chemical reactions out of 74 trillion cells. Infinite amounts, infinite intelligence. God's system is perfect, but specifically to keep it scientific, we would call this innate or an inborn intelligence. What's the first organ or organs that are developed in utero? Nerves, specifically something called the neural streak or the neural crest, your brainstem. Okay, your brainstem, the upper portion of your neck, that's the nerves. This highlighted region here. Okay, not the heart, not the lungs, not the stomach, the brainstem. It then sprouts a brain. Now, these are the slides that you're seeing. You saw this formation, kind of this tube that was happening, right? And then from here, we saw the spinal cord. The spinal cord branches out. This is the most powerful slide. I know we've gone through it. Most of you that have started with us, this is how human anatomy works. Every single connection, message, pathway has to pass from your brain through your body, through this region here, and it goes to all the organs that we spend so much time, energy, and even money focusing on. Your heart, your lungs, your liver, your stomach, your reproductive organs. And do we have enough lung doctors? We got enough heart doctors. We got enough stomach doctors. We got enough face doctors even. Even the nerves that innervate your head, face, and neck all have to pass through and go to the brain. So imagine, in theory, I'm a believer of simplicity. I don't think we have a body that's designed to live to 100, 120 years, but have our heart fail us at 50. That to me would feel like there's a defect in the system. Or for us not to be able to have children and those organs start to die off or wear away faster than we should. There's a defect in the system. But this isn't through prayer, this is through following natural law. So we've got these streams of information that pass. If we were only getting 30% or 50% of the signal, can the whole group see this? Would there maybe be a defect or a dampening of how that organ would work? Is that common sense for everyone? Yeah, in fact, what happens in a case like, maybe you've heard this condition before, I don't know, anytime I do watch TV, which is not often, it's like every 5th commercial commercial is on Crohn's. You got this signal that comes here, and then what happens is it's not getting the appropriate amount. So what does Western medicine do? The best in medicine, the best doctors, the people in our church that we pray for and have them give standing ovations for say, hey, that part of the nerve or the colon isn't working, let's just cut it out. And then we'll reattach the nerve. And that works for a few months, few years, maybe a decade if we're lucky, and then, hey, stops working, let's cut off that part of the colon, reattach the nerve. Eventually, Chris, they do this so you have a bag on your side. It's modern medicine. Especially in the church. People praying, fasting, damage to the nerves with infertility. After women spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on infertility treatments, come in here because they have back pain. 6 weeks in, back pain's improved. And they say, Dr. Tim, we don't know how. The only thing we've changed is this, but Tom and I are pregnant. I'm going to make a bold statement. Sometimes prayer isn't the solution. Sometimes it's following natural law. We have to follow natural law. This nervous system, it's so vital. In fact, if you're not following these natural laws, you are slowly withering away. We're not cures for anything. We're removal of causes for a lot of things, though. Okay, so that's why we don't know what's going to happen. Some of you came in here, whether it's a headache, a facial issue, and doc, my digestion has been working a lot better. I'm breathing better since I started. I didn't think that was an issue before. When you affect something positively, you have a global on everything positively. That's the challenge with medication. You affect one area and then it starts having a negative consequence somewhere else. So there's 3 types of nerves. How many?
3.
3 types of nerves. Magic number 3. We've got the autonomic nerves. We touched on those. Big piece of the nervous system. Those are nerves you don't think about. Your digestion, your breathing, your sexual performance, your sexual problems, your hormones, your allergies, your immune system, right? What do we see in kids? Kids don't get pain. They get sick. They get ear infections. I'll touch on a cool testimony if I can. We've been doing these whiteboard signs because we want to put them up on the picture or on the wall there. And one of the coolest testimonials was the sign says, my daughter avoided ear tube surgery. Did we treat her for that? No, we just reestablished the connection. Natural law states no more ear infections. The motor nerves, let's practice these. You guys have practiced this before. Let's wiggle our fingers, right? Wiggle our toes. Good. Those are your motor nerves. Okay, but then we've got this last small portion of the nerves called the sensory nerves. Pain, numbness, and tingling. It could be in our face, it could be in our back, it could be in our head, or down on our arms. The challenge with this is it's one of the smallest parts of the entire nervous system. And over 2/3 of the nervous system can be destroyed before you experience pain, numbness, and tingling. Guess when people come to see us? We don't joke about that. The challenge is pain is typically the last stage of disease, which is why it's the first thing to go away. So the principle along this is please don't let the absence of pain equivalent to good health.